Hi, I'm Madhura and we are shooting a documentary on the concept of irreverence. Yes, believe it or not, irreverence. I have no idea what we were smoking when we chose this topic, but hopefully after it's over, you'll appreciate it. If not, we have a pack of weed for you. It was a good session with Dr. Roy. What do you guys think?
I think it was good. What about you?
I think what was intriguing was, people actually got up and they were like, good morning, sir, back to school kinds. But where was the basic law that we were taught?
But what basic law are you guys talking about?
Don't you remember the first day when Dr. Nigam walked into class?
Journalist does not get up from his chair for anyone and does not address anyone as sir.
Yeah, I remember.
Roy comes, even Dr. Nigam asked us to stand up. Okay, that's
Okay.
the first. He's the guy who initially told us not to get up, and I saw him. He's like, okay, get up and whatever.
Okay, I agree to that, he was the one who told us not to follow that rule and then tell us, get up when Dr. Roy came, right?
Not getting up from your chair, not calling anyone sir. Is the basic law irreverence? Is there a bigger concept at play here? If yes, then what is irreverence and why is there a need of it in journalism?
Good Punjabi term is maa behan.
Borders on rudeness.
That everything is fair game, everyone is fair game.
Remember, there was this really feared criminal politician whom everyone used to be terrified of. And I remember one of my colleagues in Newstrack filmed that person giving this interview, and he was one of those criminal gang lords. And all they did was shoot him from an angle slightly lower down, from where you could see that he hadn't tied his pajamas properly. His nana was sort of hanging out all the way to the floor. It just made him look ridiculous, and every time people saw that interview, they laughed. And the fact that they laughed when seeing an interview of this guy who's a criminal godfather who used to normally make people, go weak at the knees, was, I think, a very important step.
You should never be in awe of anybody.
It means being assertive and getting your point across and not leaving the subject matter till you get your answer.
There are two types of irreverence. One, and especially when it applies to a journalist. Number one is an irreverence which means that you shouldn't be scared of anybody. You shouldn't be intimidated, you shouldn't be overawed by someone, especially your subject. And that's good irreverence. The second is a sort of irreverence where you almost put on an air of familiarity with the person. So that can be crossing the line a little bit.
To understand irreverence, we have to first know what reverence is. Like darkness is defined by the absence of light, irreverence is the lack of reverence. Reverence is to have too much respect for a person or his position, sometimes to the extent of being in awe of them. If you are in reverence, it will become difficult to question that person's actions, policies and beliefs. Thus, one can understand how important the concept of irreverence is in a journalist's life.
RSS join kar do.
RSS? Seriously? Why?
Social work.
RSS or social work.
क्यों करते हैं?
Why don't you go out and actually do it instead of wanting to join an organization which is no longer what it was and it has turned
ऐसा
into this.
कुछ नहीं है.
Does that make what the RSS is
RSS
doing
इन
saying-
चीजों में है ही नहीं ना.
कैसे नहीं?
RSS is
I'm
not a
seriously
militant
that way. There's no
organization.
point talking to you. I'm sorry.
Fine. Don't talk to me. पापा, मुझे RSS ज्वाइन करनी है.
बेटा, मैंने तुम्हें कितनी बार कहा है कि आरएसएस जिन मुद्दों को लेकर बनाई गई थी, जिन मुद्दों को लेकर चल रही थी,
लेकिन
वो
पापा
खत्म
क्यों?
हो चुके. मैंने कहा ना तुम्हें, नहीं तो नहीं.
Why did that man have distinct reactions to the same conversation when different parties were involved? Same subject, distinct reactions to different people. Could it be that irreverence is situational?
There is a dichotomy between your personal life and your professional life. Of course, reverence has to be there when you are talking to your father, when you're talking to your mother, when you're talking to your elders. But still you ask questions. And things have changed now. Things have changed. As the education seems to be changing, you are encouraged more and more to ask questions. And even in your personal life, even in your personal relationships, you ask questions. So it's not It's not rude to ask questions. It's not irreverent to ask questions. Similarly, professional lives, it is your job to ask questions.
You cannot say it's a benchmark. There are certain circumstances where you need to be respectful to certain people, and there are certain times where if the work is such, if the reportage is such that you have to take someone to task, then why not?
Irreverence is not a characteristic of a person. It comes into play with the second party. If a journalist is irreverent in his professional life, he might not be the same in his personal. Also, even in his professional life, irreverence differs with different stories. So it is contextualized by the person you're speaking with.
Of Christ.
But you've never read the book. I'm just asking
Jesus was risen from the dead.
Sir, I'm just asking.
He is the
You've never
only
read the
Savior.
book. You never read the book.
I know what the Bible says about. I know what the Bible says about the Quran.
Have you read the Bible?
Yes, I've read the Bible.
Okay, but you haven't read the
You
Quran.
want to know what the Bible says about Quran?
I'm asking you. If you don't want to answer the question, I understand. But I'm just asking the question. Have you read the Quran?
I said no. I have read parts of the Quran.
Pastor Jones, I hope you think about this and you pray on it more, and I hope you come to some other conclusion about what you're going to do this weekend. I appreciate your time tonight, sir. Thank you.
Now that's something we don't see every day. Anderson Cooper being terse. Different people, different scenarios. You know what I mean? Although irreverence is the opposite of reverence, it does not mean being rude. It is the middle path between reverence and rudeness. But how do we decide the range of this middle path?
If there was no national interest involved, you would not be interviewing me here this evening.
I'll tell you why.
And you are wasting your time.
I'll tell you why I'm interviewing you. Because I have a suspicion that Ram Jethmalani picks cases to attract attention to himself and to create controversy. It's publicity he's seeking.
So my question to you is, have you ever been in a situation where you believed in a question and were irreverent in asking it, but the other person took offense to it?
I would like to cite an example. This happened 10 years back when I was reporting for a newspaper, and I happened to ask a question to the then MOS HRD, Sumitra Mahajan, about a child who was picking up really heavy lights in front of her in a normal local festival thing. She really got upset on the entire question of mine as they were forming the Child Rights Commission, and she took it very personally.
The basic dignity of a human being has to be maintained by you at least, because if you're coming as an anchor, as a reporter, you know, that basic dignity of a human being has to be respected.
Are you a crook, Mr. Mandeep? Is Chandigarh a bad place? Does it always breed crooks? Are Punjabis generally bad people? Are you a bad person? I'm so polite and nice. All my teeth you can see, Mr. Mandeep. You are, would you like me to say, no, I'm not a crook? Mandeep said, no, I'm not a Punjabi. Oh, so you're Punjabi but not crooked. Oh, you're Punjabi but you don't use profanity. And you want to keep smiling and be here? You know, this to me doesn't work. So you want to say, are you a crook? Fine. Are you a, there are allegations that you're a crook. You want to respond to those? Respond to the camera. Respond to the camera. Fine. It's the manner of execution.
What is the middle path? Be reverent. Attack the people who need to be attacked.
कि आपकी माँ मर गई, आपको कैसा लगा? That's extreme irreverence.
Being rude, you can ask them in a dignified way, and there is a way to do that. It depends on how you frame it, the tone of your voice, and let the other person have their chance to say what they want to say.
When asking questions, there's always the risk of offending people and coming across as rude at times. So what do you do in such a situation? Do you go ahead with the inconvenient question at the risk of offending people?
Let me explain why I'm persistent, because I do believe that if a question is worth asking, it's worth persisting with till you get a sensible answer.
I have seen a BBC interview where an interviewer asked the question 32 times on live television because the guest won't answer. 32 times on live television. Is there more insulting thing for a guest than that? But the interviewer went on asking because he was sure of his question. He had the evidence.
If you believe a question is worth asking, no matter how inconvenient it is and you think it deserves a fair answer, then go right ahead and be persistent if you have to, even if it's offensive. Being persistent because you believe in a question is one thing, but grilling someone for sensationalism is quite another. You don't want bad times now, do you?
I wouldn't say that you have to grill somebody for a sensational purpose, but definitely if you're grilling somebody to arrive at the answer when it's very obvious that the person who you're interviewing is evading it, you can continue to grill him subtly till you get your answer. It's an art. You don't have to be aggressive to the point that it's making people uncomfortable.
There's a time when you can overdo irreverence, and there's a time when, and I think it's overdone for effect many times. And I think that's absolutely abysmal. You will see television programs where the anchor is almost making a point of saying, I am the god and you're not, and deliberately referring to people who are much older by their first name, almost by using their nicknames, in an effort to show that they are much bigger than their subject. I think that's crazy. Then I think at some point that's disrespectful. I don't think that helps the cause of journalism. You should question, you should be tough, you should continue to probe, you should ask the uncomfortable questions, you shouldn't be intimidated. But you shouldn't just for effect try to show that I am superior to you. That's even worse.
There's a thin line in sensationalism and being irreverent. Okay, but you have to decide. I told you, when you ask question, when you are being brutal in your interview, you have to follow it up with evidence. If you don't have evidence, please stop. You know, the interviewee also knows when the interviewer is fibbing. Don't make a fool of yourself on television, because not only the interviewee will know, the viewer will also know.
Everyone is different, and I tend to be a little soft and I tend to be a little respectful. That is perhaps my trait.
That if I was asking questions, even if they were difficult questions, I would never cross the line. But then each one has his own personality, so it completely depends on the person who's asking the questions.
At the end of the day, everyone will decide for themselves where the line is and where you cross the line. And everyone has their own style. Personally, I tend to set the bar a little lower. I tend to be politer than some others are, but that's my choice.
Irreverence is a very subjective term, so what might work for one person might not be appropriate for another. So I end this documentary on the note, to each his own.